So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Buddhist Society, wherever you're logging in from, whatever time of day it is in the time zone you're in. Here in London, it's early evening. And a very warm welcome to you all. I see lots of familiar faces, and sorry we're a couple of minutes late in starting, technical problems, etc. So as you're getting yourselves ready for this evening's session, I invite you just to check you've turned off your mobile phones or put them onto aeroplane mode. Always a useful reminder before you start a meditation session. Just make sure you're not going to be disturbed or minimize the risk of disturbance as much as you can. So mobile phones is always worth mentioning. And as we're waiting just for a few more people to log on, the invitation is to get yourselves really comfortable. Just come into a comfortable sitting position, reasonably upright. And yeah, just find a position where you can sit without fidgeting or altering your posture for about half an hour or so. So do take a bit of time to establish that position. And just to say a few words about what we're going to be doing this evening, we're here together online until 8 o'clock. There's nobody, there's not a meeting at the Buddhist Society today, or rather this evening, as there's a tube strike in London, so it's difficult for people to get in. So it's all online this evening. And what we're going to be doing for the next hour and a half is we'll do some meditation together, and I'll talk you through some of it, and I'll leave you in silence for some of it. We'll start with a body scan and then a scan of the senses. And then I'll talk a little bit about some aspects of meditation, particularly how they're related to the Buddha's teachings. This is basic meditation, but it is in the context of the Buddhist Dharma. So if you just come now to a reasonably upright sitting position, and as I said before, do get comfortable. Now, as much as your bodies will allow, I know as we get older, sometimes our bodies won't allow us to sit as upright as we used to. So be gentle with yourselves, be kind to yourself and compassionate. Just make an attempt to sit reasonably upright. If you need to use the back of a chair, or the back of a settee, a cushion to support you, that's absolutely fine. If you're able to sit cross-legged on the floor, unsupported, that's fine too. It's a good idea to start upright, as this helps promote alertness. It's also useful as we begin to place ourselves in our meditation posture, just to reflect on what we're trying to do. Is it sometimes a good idea to close your eyes, as this helps us direct our attention inwards? But you can sit with your eyes semi-opened, half-opened, looking at a blank wall or a blank carpet, and that also helps promote alertness. So whatever works for you, just experiment a bit if you're new to meditation and see what feels comfortable for you. And then consciously, I invite you now to just slow down whatever else you've been doing today. Just allow yourself to put it to one side and just slow everything down. And a good place to start in any meditation practice, in any sit, is by allowing your attention to drop downwards from your head, where we do a lot of thinking, into the soles of your feet, if you're sitting on a chair or a settee, or if you're sitting cross-legged, it would be into your ankles and your shins, the points of contact with the floor. So just allow your attention to drop downwards and see if you can get a feeling sensation, make contact with the floor, the ground underneath you that supports you. And just take a minute or two to do that. And just know that for the next hour and 20 minutes or so, no one's going to ask you to do anything difficult. No one's going to get you to jump through hoops or test you or grade you or assess you. So you can relax. This is your time. You've chosen to be here, and this is your time. You've given yourself this time to be devoting to your own practice. And that's a wonderful thing to do. It's good to recognize and acknowledge that. So just allowing your attention to drop. The invitation is to be directly with the sensation of the contact with the floor. So whatever part of your body is touching the floor, your ankles or your shins or the soles of your feet, see if you can just place your attention right there and experience that sensation. And when you receive that invitation, just notice what you do with it. Where does your mind go? Are you thinking about the soles of your feet or your ankles and shins? Are you visualizing them? Or have you allowed yourself to be directly in contact with that sensation? So the encouragement here is to see if you can bring your attention into the direct experience of the ground on which you sit. And then I invite you to move up your body to your sitting bones. And in the same way, on the cushion or the chair or the floor, whatever you're sitting on, just see if you can get that direct experience of the sensation of sitting. The weight of your torso, the pressure, the contact. And again, the invitation is to notice what you do with that invitation. Where does your attention go? And just see if you can just gently, with kindness and compassion, bring your attention into experiencing directly the sensation of sitting. And right at the outset, if lots of thoughts are drifting you away onto this and that, just notice that. It's perfectly okay. It's absolutely natural and normal in meditation to have thoughts that come and go. The important thing here is just to notice them, not to get entangled with them, and then come back directly to the sensation of this part of the body. the sitting bones on the chair or the cushion. And then I invite you to move up your body again to your back and your spine in particular. And in the same way, just notice the sensation of your back and your spine. If you're sitting on a chair or a settee, it might be the contact with the chair or the settee, the sense of pressure, the touch. If you're sitting unsupported on the floor, just notice how that feels. And again, just see if you can be aware of what you do with the invitation. Where does your mind go? Notice if you're thinking about your back or your spine, visualizing it. And just see if you can just gently bring your attention into the direct experience, the sensation of your spine or your back. And if you haven't already done so, just find a neutral position for your hands, either on your thighs or in your lap, the palms upturned or downturned. Just see what works for you. If you're new to practice, just find a neutral position. The main thing is that you find a position where it feels natural, comfortable, and you don't have to worry what to do with your hands. And if you are new to practice, I know many of you are experienced people here, but if you are new or you're returning to practice after a gap, you can feel free to experiment a bit and just find what works for you. But once you've found a position that feels natural and comfortable, you see if you can leave it alone, leave your hands where they are. And then see if you can align your neck and your head with your spine so that everything's in a nice upright column. Not rigidly straight, but just reasonably upright and reasonably aligned. And the other invitation that should be mentioned here, always with your meditation practice, is once you've established this upright position, you see if you can relax into it. So no rigidity, no tension. Just see if you can soften your muscles, but remain upright at the same time. And then I invite you to bring your attention to the crown of your head and just lengthen a fraction towards the sky so that it pulls your spine and your back a little bit more upright and just aligns everything. But keep relaxed at the same time. And if relaxation is a bit difficult for you, just think soft. Think of softening your muscles, relaxing your jaw, keeping your hands, your palms nice and loose and relaxed. And now I invite you just to notice the whole of your physical body, from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet, taking in your back, your spine, your sitting bones. Feel the clothes on your skin surface and the air on your hands and your face. Even in a warm room, there will be a different sensation on those areas to the areas covered by clothes. So just notice that. So just get a sense of the whole of your physical body. Now, so far we've been working with the sensation of touch. There are other ways of scanning the body. So I invite you now just to bring your attention to your mouth and just taste whatever it is you can taste in your mouth right now. It might be the aftertaste of tea or a drink you've had before the class, or it might be just the taste of nothing. So just bring your attention to your mouth area and taste whatever it is that there is to taste. And if indeed it is the taste of nothing, well, what's that like? What do you notice? And again, just notice what you do with the invitation. Where does your attention go? Are you directly with the sensation of taste? Or are you thinking about your mouth or visualizing the inside of your mouth? Just see if you can again just come back to that direct experience of the sensation of taste. And then I invite you to move upwards to your nose and just smell whatever it is there is to smell in the room you're in. There might be some flowers, some cooking smell, You might have lit some incense, or it may be the smell of nothing. So just when you breathe in, just notice that. Notice what you do with the invitation. Where does your mind go? And if you've gotten into a thought loop about what it is that you're smelling or not smelling, just notice that, and with kindness and compassion, just see if you can gently bring your attention back to the direct experience of the smell that you have right now. And then I invite you to move on to your eyes, move upwards to your eyes, and even through closed eyelids you can see, you can detect light. So if you have your eyes open and you're looking at a blank wall or a carpet, just notice whatever it is you're seeing. If you have your eyes closed, just notice the light coming to your optical nerve through your closed eyelids. So what are you seeing right now? And it may be nothing. There may be absolutely nothing to see. So just bring your attention to that area of your body, whatever it is. And if you have impaired vision, the same practice still applies. What are you receiving in that area? And once again, just notice what you do with the invitation. Where does your mind go? And then I invite you to move your attention around the side of your head to your ears, from your eyes to your ears, and just listen. Just listen to the sounds coming to you in the room you're in, whatever they are, wherever they're coming from, and see if you can just receive them without getting entangled with them. And it may be absolutely quiet where you are. Just notice how that feels. And again, just notice the thoughts that come and go. And with kindness and compassion, just see if you can come back, bring your attention back, just to listening. What are you hearing? And gently, let's bring this particular sit to a close. So thank you for your attention and for following the practice. Let's see if I can get a different view. And I'll just talk a little bit about what we did. So if you're new to practice, that's called a body and sense scan. And it's a very good place to start in practice is by scanning the body. I believe both my colleagues that teach this class on a Thursday evening, Colin Ash and Ajahn Subhaddo, they both do body scans. I extended it a little bit today and included the senses, and that's always useful. It adds another dimension to scanning, and it's a really good place to be, is just noticing what's going on in all your senses, just the sense of touch, the sense of taste, the sense of smell, sight and sound. They all play a part in the input into our experience. And one of the important points about doing this is it trains our attention. It trains us to notice what's going on, what's coming from the outside to us. And we can notice what arises inside as a response to what comes from the outside. So you will have had thoughts at various points along the way. And the important thing here in meditation practice is just to notice the thoughts and come back to the direct experience of the object of meditation, in this case, a part of the body or one of the senses. And of course, it's particularly difficult at certain points. Certainly when we were doing the different senses, if you have no sense of taste and the teacher asks you to notice what you're tasting, that leaves you with a certain sort of vacuum to fill. And it's very interesting to notice what the mind does with that. And the same with smell and sight and sound. Where does the mind go when there's actually nothing much to get hold of? And we can just notice that. And that's just part of the training of refining our attention. Now, many people I know many experienced practitioners find the body scan or the senses scan a bit of a chore, and they want to get on with the real thing, work with the breath. And of course, the the answer to that is, well, the breath is just another part of the body, and this training includes all the parts of the body. So that was a basic starting point for any practice, just a scan of the body and a scan of the senses. And you can do it in a lot more detail. Certainly with the body, I moved quite swiftly from a position of grounding right up through the body to the crown of the head. And you can take a lot longer doing it. And you can just do it in real detail, working through it inch by inch. And this really does help refine the attention. So it's a good starting place. One of the things I wanted to bring to your attention this evening was a question asked to me by someone in a class recently. And it was basically, well, why meditate? Why do we practice like this? And I thought it's a useful thing to address in any basic meditation class. And I guess one of the things that we're doing, certainly in that scan, when I say we're refining our attention, is the first thing we're actually doing is we're learning to recognize stress. And you'll notice when we started, I invited you to slow down. So many of us live our lives at a very fast pace. 21st century life is often full of things to do, endless tasks, and many of us move quite quickly through them, and there are lots of pressures to go even faster. And when you look at it in the round, that actually is stress. And when we slow down, we can recognize where we've been in a place of stress, and because the contrast is noticeable. And in the context of Buddhist practice, mindfulness in the Buddhist context, really the whole point is to find a way beyond stress. This brings us to the First Noble Truth. This, I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. It's always worth reminding ourselves. The First Noble Truth is the truth of suffering. In the Pali Canon, the word used is dukkha, which roughly translates as tension, stress, dis-ease, not disease, but dis-ease. It's an uncomfortable place. And in the, if you want a definition, this is it. It's, the Buddha tells his monks, now this, monks, is the noble truth of dukkha. Birth is dukkha, aging is dukkha, death is dukkha, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair are dukkha. Association with the unloved is dukkha. Separation from the loved is dukkha. Not getting what one wants is dukkha. And then he goes on to say, the 5 aggregates of clinging are dukkha. Well, I won't go into the 5 aggregates this evening, but basically the point is that when we cling and grasp at things, we create stress and tension, and that is the place of suffering. And what we're doing, even in this basic mindfulness practice of sweeping the body, scanning the senses, is we're bringing our attention into the present moment. And this is really crucial because suffering is often related, if not always related, to something that's just happened in the past, something in the distant past, or something that's going to happen in the future. In the present, there is a place that is beyond suffering, and that's one of the points of practice, is to train us to locate our attention in the present moment. The present moment is a place where we can take refuge from the suffering that is in the past and the future. There's a lot more one could say about this, but that's one of the points of practice. So one of the things we're doing here, and I think this is one of the take-home lessons I want to sort of offer you this evening, is just training ourselves like this enables us to recognize what is stress. And that's a really good place to be, is recognizing what is stress in our system right now. There's another aspect of the training that I would draw your attention to, and we've already touched on it in the body scan and the scan of the senses. There's a little quote I want to give you from one of the suttas. This is from a collection of sayings of the Buddha called the Inspired Utterances, and it goes, "You should train yourself thus. In what is seen, there must only be what is seen. In what is heard, there must only be what is heard. In what is sensed, there must only be what is sensed. In what is cognized, that means known, there must only be what is cognized, known." And that's a really pithy, succinct statement of one of the things we were doing in that practice a few minutes ago. So you'll remember that I kept encouraging you to be with the direct experience of the part of the body that, or the sense that we were focusing on. I kept bringing you back to that. I was saying things like, just notice where your mind goes when you receive the invitation to be with the soles of your feet, or your ankles and shins, the points of contact with the ground. What do you do with that invitation? And then I was gently encouraging you just to bring your attention back to the direct experience of the contact. And that's one of the things that the Buddha is encouraging in his training for his monastics and for lay people, for anyone that wants to actually find the route from suffering, is not to add to anything to your experience. We always have a tendency to sort of place what we call fabrications or elaborations onto our experience. And what the Buddha is saying is here is, no, train yourself just to notice what the direct experience is. There's a word in that they use for the stuff we add on to our experience. So, for instance, right at the end of that meditation we did, I was encouraging you to listen to whatever sounds are going on around you. Now, you may be in a very quiet place, or you may be right next to a busy road. And as the traffic goes by, and you hear the sound of a vehicle, you may wonder, oh, is that a car? Is it a lorry? Is it a bus? Etc., etc. But the invitation was to notice the sound, just to be with the direct experience without getting entangled with the sound. Well, this is precisely what the Buddha was encouraging you to train yourself. He was saying, in what is seen, just be with what is seen. In what is heard, there must only be what is heard. This is the training. And then when thoughts do come in, you notice, that's an elaboration. That's my mind is getting into thoughts about what I've experienced. That's another experience in itself, but it's not the one where we were trying to locate our attention. And this is a training. The Pali word they use for elaboration is called papancha, and it just means that. It means sort of like, you know how you get into these thought spirals or thought trees, like one thing leads to another, and you heard a vehicle go by, and before you know it, you're off on your summer holidays, driving through France or wherever. One thought leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And the training is just to notice the direct experience and to be with that and to let go of anything else. So those are two sort of ways of sort of looking at the practice we just did. One is to recognize stress, and of course the other bit is to let go of anything that we add to our direct experience. So those are two little take-home thoughts for this evening. Is one, to recognize the stress, and two is just to notice what's actually there and what you're adding to it. We'll come on and talk a little bit more about some of these aspects of meditation. But let's do some more sitting. So in the same way that we did right at the beginning 45 minutes ago, I encourage you to get into a reasonably upright posture again. Do get comfortable. I can't emphasize this enough. You know, the Buddhist path is the way out of suffering, so it's not designed to create more. So you can actually have an input in how you sit. So get comfortable, as upright as your body will allow, and be kind to yourself here. If you have a difficult body, an aging body, and you need support, that's absolutely fine. And in the same way that we did before, I invite you just to drop your attention downwards. Just down from your head. You've been listening to me speaking, you've probably had thoughts about the things I've been saying. Just for a moment or two, just allow your attention to just come down. And just feel the contact with the floor. And in the same way that we did before, just see if you can be with the direct experience. The sensation of touch of your feet on the floor, or your ankles and your shins, or perhaps your knees. Just get a sense of being grounded and stable and upright. And then, as we did before, just establish a contact with your sitting bones on the chair or the cushion. And again, see if you can be with the direct experience of the sense of touch, the pressure, the weight of your torso. It's the feeling of sitting here in this room. And then just notice your back and your spine in particular. And just check that everything's reasonably upright and aligned. And again, relax. Relax the body. And then see if you can get a sense of the whole of your physical body, from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. Now bring your attention to the movement caused by your breath. So just leaving your breath alone, leaving it exactly normal and natural, not controlling it in any way. The invitation is just to notice the sensation of the movement caused by the breath. And if you're new to practice or returning, you might want to experiment to see where that sensation is noticed most easily. So it's usually the chest area or the abdomen, or sometimes at the rim of the nostrils. So where is it most easy for you to notice? And again, the invitation is to be with the direct experience of the sensation of the movement of the breath. And thoughts may come and whisk you away, and just notice that, and gently, with compassion and kindness, just bring your attention back and reconnect with the breath cycle. So just notice where you are now. Are you off in thoughts, or are you with the breath? And see if you can just gently, with compassion and kindness, bring yourself back to connecting with the breath. So just noticing where you are, just do a rain check. Have you drifted off? Or are you reasonably with the breath? And again, just hold the breath lightly. You're not trying to grasp it or focus in a concentrated way. Just notice it and notice the thoughts that come and go. And let's bring this meditation to a close. So thank you once again for your attention and your practice. So we've done quite a bit this evening. We've worked with a body scan, we've worked with a scan of the senses, and we've done some mindfulness of breathing. And really, if you're new to practice or returning to practice, or if you're just wanting to get a little bit more input into your own ongoing practice, those are basically 3 basic meditations that you can easily do in any session that are really good for grounding you and refining your attention and training you, just as the Buddha set out in his words all those centuries ago. But just to come back to that question that I was asked at a recent session, and by the way, if you want to ask any questions or share anything, please, you're welcome to either put it in the chat, that's probably the best way, or unmute yourself and put your hand up, and I'll come to you. But just going back to that basic question that I was asked at a recent session, why meditate? What's that about? And I really thought of 2 sort of lines of answer. One is the sort of the bad news, and one is the good news. And the bad news is that here we are in the 21st century, and there is a lot of stress around the way we live our lives, the speed, the pressure, the anxiety. There's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of depression. Mental health services are, if we are to believe the reports, are absolutely stretched to the limit. And even if we're not users of those, we can notice that just in the society around us, there's a lot of anxiety and stress and pressure. So that's really the bad news. The good news is that more and more people coming to practices like this and are having a sense of what is possible, that actually we don't have to live our lives in the way that a lot of the pressures of society direct us. There is another way. And one of them I mentioned right at the beginning of this session when I invited you to slow down. I mean, it's a big, big step. I mean, how often do we press the pause button in our lives and just stop doing things and just sit? Well, obviously, you've decided to come and practice, and that is a kind of pressing of the pause button. And really those 2 answers, the bad news that I just gave and the good news, they really break into the first, they fall into the categories of the first and the second noble truths. The first noble truth is the Buddha was saying it's like this, and I gave you that list before. This is the noble truth of dukkha, and he gives a big list: birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair, dukkha. And then the very interesting one from my point of view is this one towards the end of the list where he says, and not getting what you want. And how many of us is that true? Or not getting quite what you want. So all those hundreds of years ago, 2,500 years ago, the Buddha listed what is present in our lives today, and it's very much present. So that's the first noble truth. That's really, it's like this. And then, of course, the second noble truth which is really comes hard on the heels of the first one, is, and there is a cause of all this. There is a cause. And if you direct your attention to the cause, which is part of what we have been doing this evening in our practice, we've been learning, we've been training our minds to pay attention and to see where the stress and the tension originates. And over time, with practice, we can start to see the cause much more clearly. There is a cause to this. It doesn't come from nowhere, this stress and tension and suffering. It is caused by conditions, and we can see those quite clearly. And part of the condition is in our minds. And coming back to where we were earlier in this session, how you pay attention can change your life. It can change your practice, and it can change your life. So the way in which you pay attention, and right through the practices, I was encouraging you with kindness and compassion to return your wandering mind to the object, the focus, the part of the body, the sense, the breath, whatever it was that we were locating our attention on, was to do it with kindness and compassion. And really that's critical. So the way you pay attention is really crucial here. The other thing we often do in practice is we add to the tension we already have by bringing it into our practice. We hear the invitation to locate our attention on the sensation of the breath, and we think, I have to be on the breath absolutely 100% of the time, and if I haven't, I've failed as a practitioner, and I'm no good meditator. So we bring that tension with us. And of course, both my colleagues in this class and pretty much every meditation teacher will say to you, no, it's not that. It's not that. It's just keep returning. Keep bringing it back, as though you're training a puppy or you're coaxing a young child to go somewhere. You do it gently, kindly. And so too with our minds. We coax ourselves with kindness. So it's how we pay attention is crucial. There's a principle in Buddhist practice that is really worth mentioning here, and that is, it's never in Buddhist practice the end justify the means. It's always in Buddhist practice the means is the end. So how you do something, that's where you're going. So how you pay attention with kindness and compassion, that's the path. The process is all important. The end product, well, that'll take care of itself. It's a process really important here. Oh, someone's just arrived. Welcome. So I've located this evening's practice in the context of at least the first and the second Noble Truth. And of course, it's really worth pointing to the third and the fourth ones here, which are that there is a way out of this stress and the suffering, and that's the third Noble Truth. And the fourth one is, well, there's a set of steps you can take called the Noble Eightfold Path, and practice like this, mindfulness practice, is part of that path. So this evening's session, and indeed all the sessions in the basic meditation class, are located firmly in the context of the Four Noble Truths. I think one of the oh, hang on, just seeing what's in the chat. Okay, that's really lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Um, so, okay, it's just a sharing that Colin last week, who had introduced the class to metta, or rather reintroduced the class to metta. Metta is the Pali word for loving kindness. Um, and someone is just sharing that it had a really important impact for them. So I would echo Colin uh, here today. I would emphasize that this element of bringing kindness and compassion to your practice is really important. Just two further thoughts before I stop talking to you again. But two things. One of the things that I was emphasizing was recognizing what's going on. Actually, to use the Cockney vernacular, clock what's going on, and noticing it. And the word recognize is really crucial here. It's all important. And the clues in the word: recognize, and cognition is the Latin for know, know, recognize something. And just to recognize what's going on, to recognize your direct experience in practice. Now, the clue in the word is to re-know. Effectively, you reframe it. So you reframe your experience. So much of the time we're on sort of what is commonly called automatic pilot. We go through life and we have endless thoughts, endless experiences, and thoughts related to those experiences that go off in thought spirals, thought trees, and we just go through life in a bit like a robot on automatic pilot. And one of the things about this practice is we recognize our direct experience. And so we see clearly what we're adding to it, and we see clearly what it is. So we recognize it. And that's a really useful point of practice, is just being with that direct experience. And if you lose it and you get lost in thoughts, and then you recognize that you're lost in thoughts, that's a really important thing to do as well, because then you know this is your experience as well, and you've moved from the direct sensation or whatever it was. So recognizing what's there, as the inspired utterance that I read earlier says, just in what is seen, there must only be what is seen. In what is heard, there must only be what is heard. In what is sensed, there must only be what is sensed. In what is cognized, there must only be what is cognized. And that's the training. And to know that's our experience. And oh, by the way, this is what I bring, this is what I add to it, this is where my mind goes as a result of that experience. And to see it clearly, and that, I guess, is what part of what enables us to let go. So you will remember that the two very simple instructions that Colin often gives in this class is sort of notice and let go, notice and let go, notice and let go. And it's so easy to notice and then get caught up in a thought spiral. And before you know it, you haven't let go at all. You're just entangled, embroiled even further. Well, that's what the mind does. But this training, just to be with whatever it is that's going on, and to know when you're adding to it, and actually step back from that. That's what enables us to let go. And it really brings us back to the second noble truth, which, to put it at its simplest, is that it's the clinging that causes the suffering. It's the clinging that causes the pain. It's the clinging that is the dukkha. So when we grasp, when we find we are actually entangled or embroiled in a thought stream or in some aspect of life, I don't mean engaged, I mean entangled. And there's a difference there, a very important difference. But just when we're entangled, that is because at some level we're grasping, we're clinging. And when we can see that clearly, that's what enables the letting go. Okay. Any questions or anything anyone wants to say or share? I'm hesitant to add any more to that because one of the things that I've found in listening to people speak is that uh, is often when they've said what they have to say, more it just confuses the issue. So you've heard pretty much what I have to say this evening, and I don't want to confuse you any further. So I think probably what we should do just for these last few minutes is just sit and bring some kindness and compassion to yourself. So in the a reasonably upright posture, let's spend these last few minutes of this session just bringing some kindness and well-being thoughts to yourself, wishing yourself well, wishing yourself care, kindness, compassion. May I be at ease, may I be free of suffering, may I be well. And just see if you can really connect with that in your heart. So just one announcement from the Buddhist Society is that this Saturday, this coming weekend, Ajahn Brahm, who some of you may know from Australia, is at the Buddhist Society giving a talk on Buddhism for health. And it's the first time he's been at the Buddhist Society this side of the pandemic. And I believe you can log on if you can't get there. I think there are a lot of seats are taken, but if you can't get there, you can log on and actually listen to him speak online. So I believe that happens at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. So I want to thank you all very much for joining me this evening and for practicing together. Um, I wish you well. I think Colin will be back next week. So have a good week, and uh, if you want to log on Saturday, that would be an interesting talk from Ajahn Brahm. Go well.